since the sailing schedules are so close, then maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea if I called the shipping office to see, number one, where the ship was, and number two, just to make sure he was the captain, because I've been emailing him and I haven't been getting a reply. And I've been calling his house and I've been leaving messages on his machine. And his voice is on the machine, but I haven't been getting a call back, which is really unusual. But I figured he was out with the ship. And they informed me that Captain David has recently passed away from melanoma. They said it happened very rapidly. Probably during a period recently when I was quite sick and had lost touch with him. This is very saddening to me because we were very, very close for many years. And we had tremendous amounts in common. Even back long ago, we went sailing together on little small boats, and would sit and have endless talks with each other about, what type of engine to put in here and type of sails and this and that. And David went to the same college I did. He roomed with me several years. I was undoubtedly my best friend during that period. He also was a backup musician for me several times. He was a wonderfully talented musician. Played drums, played piano, played bagpipes, played cello. I mean, you could just sit anything down in front of him and he could play it. He had a full music scholarship to college. Senior year, he dropped out. And no one could understand why. He was just a term from having a full degree. And he said no. And it was free for him. He said, no, this is not what I want to do. He said, I want to go work on a shrimp boat. And we thought he was just as crazy as could be. And he did. And he left. And he went and he took a shrimp boat out of Beaufort, North Carolina. And it was a couple of years before I saw him again. He showed up at my house. I was living in Florida. And he'd been working the runs on the shrimp boats. And had met this wonderful woman that was a cook on one of the boats. That, if I recall, had been the girlfriend of the captain of that boat. And they had fallen in love with each other. And they were on their way to Galveston, where he was to take over a boat there that was a museum ship. It was a tall ship. And that's what he always wanted to do. Is he really fit the part. He was big and tall, huge beard. And he looked like a pirate when he walked in the room. And his wife's name was Sherry, just a wonderful lady. Wonderful lady. God, they loved each other. Periodically through the years, we'd come across each other, have a phone call here, a phone call there. Last one was maybe 9 months ago, before he got sick. But David was such a wonderful, wonderful man. And he had children that he loved more than air. Just as much as he loved his wife. For his whole life. He really did figure out how to do it right. He picked out what he wanted to do, and he did it, and he did it with the people he wanted to do it with. There's not many people that can do that. I'm going right now to hopefully catch his widow at the house. I've got her address. address. It's maybe an hour from here, if I can find it. And if she'll see me, I'm sure she hasn't seen me in so long, she may not even know who I am, but that's okay. I've called a couple of times, but I don't want to keep calling because no one's picking up. And he keeps answering the phone when I call. And they told me she doesn't have the heart to take his voice off the machine. So I'm just going to knock on the door. This is definitely a town where a sea captain would feel comfortable. But his house, now dark, couldn't get anybody to the door. Those newspapers stacked up on the porch, boxes where mail had been delivered, broken toys, things weren't kept up. They weren't clean. His car was still sitting out front with the parking pass for the ship hanging from the rearview mirror. Probably where he had parked it last. I imagine there's lights in that house just right where he left it. Call as I might on the phone, or knock as I might on the door, or ring the bell, I could not get anybody to come to the door, even though the cars were all there. So I wrote a big long note, which for me is difficult because it hurts to write, particularly when it's long, and double that when I'm doing it on the hood of a hot car. But I did. And I stuck it through the mail slot with a card. So, I mean, she'll have to get it because it's sitting on the floor of her house. Maybe that's what happens when a person that's bigger than life dies. They leave a hole that's that big. You think? Maybe that is what happens. Maybe they can't go and just leave a nice smooth wake behind them. Maybe the normal people around them are just sucked into the hole when they're gone because there's just this big vacuum. That sure seems to be what happened here. But they said at the Kalmar Nickel offices that she was just devastated by this. Just completely devastated. And there is someone at home at the house because the lights are now on. I may try again. I got up to the door and there were two lights that had been turned on in the house, both of them with very small candle bulbs in them. And the rest of the house was dark. And I still couldn't get anyone to come to the door after a ring on the bell and a knock. So I didn't pursue the matter. And I left. I'm now at a park probably a quarter of a mile from his house. And there's looks like a bay here, which would have been somewhere I imagine he spent a lot of time. I'll miss David. Even though we didn't keep in constant touch, it was always comforting to know he was there and to know the world held somebody like David. Because he was a giant. He really was a giant. And I'm really going to miss him. And a lot of other people apparently do too.